Good evening. Welcome to BTV. Are you in the mood for something inappropriate? We start tonight with Squeal.
Y'all need to watch under y'all damn nuts.
Hey, welcome to Squeal. I am Andy, and tonight I am joined by Mrs. Jones, John Richards, Gillian Bartlett, and Dean Arcuri. And tonight we are talking about... John?
Oh, the controversial subject of selfies.
Ooh.
Yeah, which as Dean put it out, it stormed my Facebook page.
And still does.
What? And still does. No, because this is my thing about selfies. Because I don't really want my photograph taken ever, but I certainly don't want to take it unless there's 4 cameras and 2 guys in headsets. You know, that's my base minimum for my photograph. And selfies are this thing that shows up endlessly, and I don't get them. And I asked on Facebook, look, why do people do them? Because the only things in my head that I think are quite negative, which is either you want people to go, hey, you're hot, or you want people to go, hey, you're not sad and tragic. That's the other two things I kind of had. And listen, the argument that was raging, people were defending them without saying why they did them. And I just wanted to know, why.
Okay, so
why
I
not?
do them because I take the best of photo of myself, right?
But so that's it. So it's a way of framing
it's a way
yourself.
of self-editing. You can take 10 selfies and put the good one on, and if someone else takes a photo of you, they'll pick one where you look really
So, well, that's saying vanity. I take them. Some people know I run around Melbourne taking photos and of the scene and all of that stuff. Now,
so you specialise in ones where you're drunk with your mouth open.
Oh, completely. If I had time, I would bring in a collage. But if I don't take selfies of myself, I'm too busy taking photos of everyone else, and I'm beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you know,
so this needs to be seen to the
that's
world.
vanity again, though, isn't it?
Completely.
How did you get...
I never told you I wasn't paid.
No, but you just said, no, but that's vanity. But my thing is different. It's vanity.
But why? But is it about validation? Basically, you want people to tell you you're beautiful. Why can't you
I
just
just want to
believe
make
you're
sure.
beautiful?
I know I'm beautiful. Please.
So
look
why
at
do you
me.
need to put it out there?
But it's like,
why
otherwise no
not?
one's going to document that you were there.
Yes. Yeah.
I take all the photos.
But you know you were there.
It's like a historical record.
Why do you need to... It's
Why do I need to know that I was there?
Yeah.
Friends of mine were at Beyonce the other day, right? Because they're gay. And they put a picture up on Facebook of Beyonce performing, and all you could see was a sea of cameras.
Yes.
Yeah,
No one was
flashing.
actually
Were they
watching
pointed at
Beyonce.
She
or
wasn't
at
there.
themselves?
Well, there was a bit of both, I
I'd
think.
say a bit of both for sure.
Someone also sent me a link of selfies at funerals.
And that was what I was about to say. I actually went to a funeral.
I'd do that.
Funeral. All we were talking about was because on the way there, we're all in the cars, everyone's texting a little bit bored, and then someone just sent a link to selfies at funeral, and we couldn't stop laughing at the actual funeral because all these pictures and a lot of young children, a lot of like in the cars in their seats on the way, smiling.
Hey, Gran, you're
So
dead.
The best one,
Not
there
next
was
to the
one guy
coffin.
that was at Gran is dead, lols, and smiling. I wonder what face she would be doing in this shot. But there was an amazing one, and it's a girl going, today my hair looks great. Pity it's for a funeral. And it's hashtag funeral. And this is where the internet has gone awry.
And this is my thing about so many people going, why can't you just know you were there? Why do you feel the need to document
But what's
it?
the point of Facebook and
Yes, because
Instagram
Facebook,
and
it's
Twitter
really
and all
about
these
Facebook,
things?
isn't it?
It's really, and you use them a lot, except for Twitter. I know you don't use that. But the point of this is to keep putting out there all these ridiculous things about ourselves for no reason. That's the point.
Well, I think it's more of a symptom, not the cause. Because, we know that there's so many great things about Facebook. It connects you with people, perhaps you haven't seen for years or that perhaps you wouldn't come across in your small circle.
It's a convenient way to stalk
But
people.
as you do that, there are always extremes to every situation. This becomes the result, is that we can't, like teenagers can't go anywhere without taking a selfie. It's like they don't exist unless they can prove they exist by taking a picture and putting it out there.
Like
and
Hugo Weaving in Proof.
Totally, exactly.
I think, yeah.
And see, it's like it started years ago. We're just catching up.
What about the selfie with someone else in the photo?
That's
Is that
interesting.
okay?
I should talk. Yeah, I have a certain definition for selfies too that I'm thinking of. Now, if your selfie is to say, "Look, I have an amazing hat," or "I'm in front of the Eiffel Tower," you're not the subject necessarily of
so
that
it's
selfie.
about the
Selfies for no
tower.
reason.
There's context there.
Okay.
If, like people I know, you're just putting a picture of your face, which is the same face you had yesterday and probably the same one you'll have
I don't know
tomorrow.
about me.
I mean, if you had horrible scarring one day, sure, put that up. That's interesting.
And you could do a comparative photo, which would be really exciting.
Before and after one, I would at least be interesting. But if it's just going, hey, I've got a head.
But I think Facebook's so impersonal, and people are just so desperate, just touching so many friends they aren't really friends with. They've just got to reaffirm themselves all the time.
Saying,
Hey,
it's
I'm
about
here.
validation.
I've got nothing interesting to say. So I'll
Can't
just
it
put a
just
picture
be
up.
fun?
No.
Can't it
No,
just
I'm
be
with
fun?
The fun ones
It's
are
fun
good,
if you
but
do it
most of them
once,
are.
I'm being
Dean.
attacked.
That's what I'm saying. If you do it once, that's fun. If you're doing it every 3 days,
Yes, that's just irritating.
problem.
It's like hashtags and things, but that's people just being idiots.
But I like what you say about
Maybe
fun
they're
because
desperate.
I think it's like being on the radio or television or sending a photo about communication is that there should be something in it for both of you, as in the sender and the recipient. So as long as it's fun for the person who's looking at it, not just for you,
Exactly, that's exactly right.
So if the Eiffel Tower's there, that's going, oh, you're visiting the Eiffel Tower, that's interesting.
I got something out of that.
If it's just you have a head, that's...
But what if it's a very, very fine head?
We've seen it 250 times before.
It's got to be a cool photo.
Now, when I
yesterday,
actually heard this entire debate happening, well, Reddit, on John's Facebook feed, I created a mental mission that I forgot up until this moment, and I want to encourage everyone else to do this as well. I think the aim should be for us all now to take selfies of ourselves with John Richards in the background.
Yes. That's called stalking, darling. Totally.
I'm going to make it happen. You'll just one day there'll just be a sea of pictures, and it's just me smiling, and you'll just be sitting having a coffee or reading a book.
But maybe it's a fad. I remember, sort of when I'm a late adopter of all these things, but Facebook, and I started to sort of get onto it and have a look, and it was all about people talking about what they'd done at the gym, or how they'd eaten porridge, or cleaned their teeth, or stroked their cat. That seems to have stopped. Finally,
Not
it depends on your
enough,
friend.
not
maybe I got rid of those.
But
That's why they
getting
create
better.
the block function.
Yeah.
There are more smart and funny things, and
Yeah, and sometimes I read it for, to keep up with the world, what's going on, because people post something that, has happened and we should all know about. Good on that,
I
say.
get good links and stuff through it. I mean, people being interested.
Like the grumpy
in
cat.
things.
Oh, yes.
Can't get
Where
enough.
would Grumpy
Important.
Cat
Can't
be
get enough.
without Facebook?
Did you know, I'll just share this, it was actually in Splendid Chaps, our Doctor Who podcast, but I'll share it with you guys as well. Grumpy Cat has an agent. His name is Ben Sparks. I think it's Ben Sparks. He's not only Grumpy Cat's agent, he's also the agent for Keyboard Cat and Nyan Cat. He is a cat he's an agent who specialises in internet
royalty.
That is
Every time
job.
there's a Grumpy Cat picture, someone's making
Grumpy
money
Cat
out of it.
makes 6 to 7 figures a year and a film is coming out.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
For truth.
Those people who the one son bit the other one's finger, they then started creating more and more videos.
Oh, they're great videos, yeah.
But they made a business out of it
They're
as
making
well.
a feature film out of the dog that goes, yeah, a little bacon. About the fridge. He's actually, that's already
Can
being
you
made.
please do that again?
Bacon.
I love it.
I don't think the dog does that, but you know the one I'm talking
But
about.
see, now, out of all that, that's the film I want to see.
I sold it to you.
You totally did. That's all I needed.
We have plumbed the depths of intelligence and conversation tonight on Squeal, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Hope you enjoyed that. This is Bent TV. See you after the break. Welcome back to Bent TV. Next, Quedia. Steve interviews Dennis Altman, gay activist.
Good evening, welcome to Bent TV. You're watching Quedia with Steve Pereira. We're returning tonight to our discussion with Dr. Dennis Altman, Melbourne icon, activist and writer. And we're talking about the end of homosexuality. Or is it? Again, one of the points you make is the importance of media and the importance of magazines and publications and TV shows as a point of as a point of coalescing a community around that. And that's exactly what happened in Bombay. They started Bombay Dose, which is then started around the whole AIDS awareness campaign.
Which was a shock.
Ashok Rawkari.
Of course, yes.
Who's
Anti-Ashok, as he would proudly call himself, were he sitting here with us. And were he sitting here with us, neither you nor I would get a word in.
No, they wouldn't. In fact, a friend of mine has just gone back to Bombay and posted a picture for dinner last night, because they've gone back to try and mobilise around the repeal of the new government legislation.
I know a lot of the Indian activists, but I don't know India, so I don't want to make any particular judgments. But I think that's a classic case where, the irony is the Indian laws are, of course, a legacy of British colonialism, and they're being supported by Indian officials who are, in other circumstances, very keen in attacking British colonialism. And the hypocrisy of, a majority of Commonwealth countries, British Commonwealth countries, still have the British laws. I have no patience for people who then turn around and say this is all the fault of the nasty British imperialists. The reality is these countries, India has been independent for 50 years. Several generations of politicians who have come to power on anti-colonial rhetoric have deliberately chosen to turn imported British laws into Indian morality. Now, you can't blame the Brits for that.
No, there is that level of hypocrisy that exists all the way through. Yeah, you can't have both.
You can't have both. And of course, the other thing one should say is, after all, we take for granted that almost every country in the world, maybe North Korea is an exception, wants to become affluent and wants to adopt many of the ways of doing things that are associated with Western capitalism.
So perhaps we should emphasise the pink dollar a bit more in that case.
Well, the pink dollar has, I think, been an enormously useful myth. A myth. I mean, and I actually think I talk about this a bit. And there was that period from the 90s on when major companies started saying, oh, we really should target the gay and lesbian market. There's all that money out there. It's a bit like the pink vote. It's not as important as they think it is, but it's a good idea if they believe it. So let's not disillusion them.
Well, we've always had a query about the affluent queer community. I mean, if there is an affluent queer community, it's a tiny percentage of the overall community. And yes. I think you are right, but it is a useful myth sometimes to perpetuate because it does get us.
But just going back to media, because I think you mentioned the creation of Bombay Dost. That's part of an old tradition that I come out of, and you told me you were in Toronto, so you were aware of Body Politic, which was in its day one of the most important gay liberation papers in the world. Now, of course, those sorts of movement magazines and journals are far less significant. And I guess when we talk about media, what's really important now is the way in which queer, lesbian, gay, trans characters are so common in mainstream television and the impact that has. And again, I'm not quite sure why I wrote this, but I remember many years ago being in Manila and going through, Manila is this huge city, very stratified by class, by income, huge inequalities. And in one of the slum areas of Manila, there was a bar that was showing on its screen Victor Victoria.
Right.
And I suspect for a lot of the locals who would have come to the bar because they wouldn't have had television at home, this was an introduction to a way of thinking about themselves that they wouldn't have got any other way. And now, of course, something like Glee, which I think is a terribly interesting program in the way it depicts a whole set of sexual and gender issues, and is often very confused, is probably seen by tens of millions of people across the world. Of course, people are going to take up questions of identity and self-image from that, just as much as they're going to take it up from Indian and Mexican soap novellas.
Which still don't include gay characters, they include them in very extraordinary...
Well, they don't in India.
They don't in India. Very stereotypical
But
things.
certainly the Latin American ones do. And one of the things... We in Australia have this bizarre blind spot about that. I mean, we just don't recognise that countries like Brazil and Mexico are major countries with major cultures. Now, I remember being years ago in Mexico City, and in the bus shelters, there were big gay advertising posters that you wouldn't have seen at that stage in a bus shelter in Australia. So, we have to stop this idea that somehow they, meaning developing countries, are always behind us. That's not true.
In terms of the gay community here, you use a quote that I found fascinating, both homosexual oppression and liberation and the end of homosexuality, or the end of the homosexual, which is the Christopher Ishwood quote, annihilation by blandness.
Yes.
You also use another quote, and you talk about the AIDS movement, and you quote William F. Buckley, every gay issue begins as a cause, becomes a movement, and ends as a cabal. There also is an air of nostalgia or regret about when you talk about gay organising today as opposed to gay organising in the 70s and early 80s, with the sense of a zeal or a grassroots organising. Have we become petty bureaucrats? Have we, as a community?
Well, I think there are too many things being put together. So let's try and, as one would say in the modern world, unpack them. I think Isherwood's quote, the annihilation by blandness, still is very important because it strikes me that in a country like Australia, there is a new form of homophobia, which is nobody or very few people will, so in Cory Bernardi is an exception, but very few people will express open dislike or distaste, but they will trivialise us in many ways. And I think that is true of some sections of the media, that there just isn't, for example, the reporting of what's going on in our region, where people are in some countries being persecuted because of their sexuality. And I think that's where Annihilation by Blandness comes in. The other point, I mean, the other quote you refer to is very specifically about the fact that when AIDS came along, it created its own industry. Now, that's both good and bad. I mean, you know, one can say, thank goodness, and we should be very relieved that in a country like Australia, there was a lot of government resources. There was partnerships established between government, researchers, community, organisations, etc. Inevitably, as time goes on, organisations tend to become very fixed, and you end up, I think, where organisations exist to perpetuate organisations.
That's right.
People lose touch with why they set them up in the first place.
So the anti-racism industry has become a self-perpetuating industry in time. I've been Steve Pereira. I'm Steve Pereira. You've been watching Quedia with Dr. Dennis Altman on Ben TV. See you next time. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that. That was very informative. See you after the break. Welcome back to Ben TV. Next, lip service.
I just got a little. The last time I told you, when you told your mother, and your mother told me that you told her the secret, I told you not to tell me.
Thanks very much. Yeah, cheers, Georgie. Yes. You're on Ben TV watching more lip service, where a problem shared is a problem halved. If you have a problem and you'd like my fantastic panel to help you, please send them in to feedback@benttv.org.au. So welcome back to Craig, Jessica, and Nate. Georgie just called in with the first problem that we need to deal with. Georgie has a bit of a crush on this particular boy. Yeah. And in order to see the reaction of this boy, to see if she could actually elicit a reaction, she decided to sleep with his best friend.
Disaster. Why would you do
Good
that?
idea.
Oh, it'll all end in tears.
Your life is just one long tear, isn't it?
It's funny, is Georgie actually surprised that the guy she's interested in isn't talking back to her now? Because that seems like
Sorry, I forgot to add that, didn't I? The fact that the boy's not longer talking.
Oh, right.
Yes.
So is that what
Have you been reading my notes? Yes, indeed. She is a little bit perturbed that the boy she actually likes isn't now responding to her calls.
It's a strange way to go about getting someone, letting someone know that you're interested. You know, I think, you know, she's made a mistake.
Well, could she own up, do you think? And sort of say, look,
I only slept with your best friend to elicit a reaction, and so you date me.
Well, I think that it's not an unreasonable thing to, you know, to say, oh, well, I'm interested in this person, I'm pretty sure they're not. And then if maybe his best friend showed interest, well, you know, got to get some. Like sometimes you just, you know.
So you think it's a good idea?
Well, I don't think. Well, it's already happened, so I don't think that if it was a good or bad idea.
Had she been contemplating it right now, what would you say?
Don't do it.
Well, you know, depends. How good looking is the best friend? Maybe the best friend is actually, you know, a more, you know, available person.
So if the
to
best
have.
friend is good looking, it's okay.
Well, no, like if maybe she should develop a relationship with the best friend.
Right.
You know.
But she likes the other boy.
she likes the other boy. I don't know.
I don't know.
I think she's made a big mistake.
I don't know.
Georgie, you're a conundrum.
I think Georgie should have gone to the original guy and just been a bit more clear, and you know, about her intentions and her feelings. You know, that might have got a better response.
Well, she's ended up with. Well, I don't know if she's ended
with the
actually,
best friend.
Georgie, could you call back and tell? Did you end up with the best friend or neither of them? I don't know. It'd be interesting to know. Now then, oh yes, there's Ken. Ken called in last week. Emailed actually. Ken has a new job and has a crush on this guy in the office.
Oh, we've all been there.
Yeah.
Love an office romance.
Problem is, every time he goes near the guy, the brain freezes, stammering, flush, you know, bright red, can't, you know, make any sense.
Yes.
And yet,
Well, that's a natural response when you're feeling quite anxious about the impressions you're going to make on someone, isn't it? So you get that feeling of.
How do you get over it?
Well, I don't know.
You just run away, don't you?
Yes, usually. Yes, I do. Yes, I don't even go there in the first place. No. It'll all end in tears.
Jess?
I don't know. I mean, maybe you could just take a deep breath, just try and calm down and, just approach
Just stop meditating.
Yes, possibly.
On the desk next to him.
Either that or, I don't know, smoke a quick ciggy or something. But that's probably going to make it worse.
Probably. Oh, I don't think we should be advocating tobacco.
Yeah, bad for his health. Might smell your breath. I don't
Actually,
know.
that's just complicating the issue more.
Yeah.
Not a good look.
It's dealing with the nerves.
Well, I mean, today's modern technology, there's multiple ways to approach this. So if it's the physical and the in-person, that maybe friend request on Facebook. Or maybe, send an email saying...
Because you are a Facebook stalker.
Yeah, obviously.
Yes,
that's what I do.
Yeah.
And, that could be just that kind of a bit more...
But how do you make it from professional to personal? How do you... What's the best...
You just start. You just say, I added you on Facebook, and then it's hi, thanks for adding me. Good day at work. And then you get a little bit more
personal.
A
message every hour?
Stalking. Every half an hour.
Then every 5 minutes, message.
And slowly, I reckon...
And then you become a stalker. Lovely, yes.
Or happily ever after.
You just beat him down, basically.
Essentially, yeah.
I suppose with the typing, do you type? Do you stammer when you type?
No.
Stammer when you type?
I mean, do people get...
Well, you can, but you don't have to press enter.
Spell check, darling, spell check.
Now then, okay, Carrie called in. Her partner has asked if she would be willing to be pissed on. What?
I'm shocked.
Did she go there?
Interesting.
Well, pee is a very sterile thing. It's safe. There's no health implications.
So you're advocating we bathe in it?
Well, why not? No, but it depends on the relationship. But if she feels safe within the relationship, if she feels as though it's, maybe try it in the shower. Because then, you've got access to be able to clean it off if it's not your thing, but then you're trying.
Oh, so you're ready, you can just go...
Yeah, exactly. And clean again.
Well, you're not going to get dirty because it's sterile.
Well, yeah, true.
Yeah.
But, you might feel like it's pee. But, if you're in the shower or in the bath, it's a way to...
Should she ask the partner to perhaps, eat or drink something, to...
Maybe lots of water, to try and make sure that it's not like, haven't peed in it.
Pineapple juice, scented?
I don't know.
I can say I've had a little bit of experience with this.
Oh.
Yes. Well, yes, I've shared this particular experience with a partner of mine.
Yeah.
Many moons ago, in the shower, in a contained environment, in a safe space.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. Yes, a bit of water sports.
Right.
I advocate that wholeheartedly.
Right.
Why not?
Yeah, well, why not?
Try.
Give it a go.
New things?
Do you think Carrie should give it a go?
Yeah. Suck it up.
Literally?
Well, maybe not.
No.
Is that going too far?
That's going
I think that's going
way
a bit
too
far.
Yeah. So you just sort of keep it sort of lower body?
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
I think that we should just move on now.
Yeah. I think we're going to have to. We'll be off air shortly.
We didn't want to shock you.
Now then, quick one to finish. We've had Georgie already, sorry. Yeah, Anwar, yes. I'm getting the signal that we're actually almost out of time, so we're going to have to be really quick with this one. Anwar, his partner has a much higher sex drive. Completely out of kilter. Wants shagging all the time, wants to shag all the time. Anwar's not that fussed. Quick one.
That's what YouPorn's for.
For Anwar, or?
Yeah.
Or
for the
calm
one
the other one down?
Yeah. Just, take care of business yourself.
Yep.
And then try and,
Okay.
It'll all end in tears.
What?
I don't think they've got a compatible sex drive.
Yeah.
I think that's a problem.
That can be a problem if it's going on for a long period of time. If this is just sort of a period of time, a bit of a phase, might be manageable with the YouPorn, but otherwise, not sure.
So, ends in
Give
tears.
the partner the threesome number. Yes, earlier on. Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, I think that's about all we have time for on Lip Service for today. You're on Bent TV. We'll see you next time.
Another great episode. Thank you for watching. You can always go to the website for further details, membership, joining, volunteering. See you next week. Good night.